Today we had another coaching session at the HSLU about service design. And I'm here with my mate, Andy Pallane, to just share a few of these good questions that came from students. So, Andy, what's one of the questions that resonated with you today?
So Sophia came with a question today, which I hear a lot. I've done all my primary research, I've done a lot of secondary research, I've gone spoken to people, done workshops, I've read all the literature, all that. And what do I do with it? And it's often I see a leap to, I've got an idea. And she was saying, do I need a framework? Do I need to find something? And I think the answer to this often is you need to do the analysis and synthesis of the research. So you need to have those themes, both in the primary research, the literature and case studies and everything else you've looked at, or what are the kind of themes. And you might find there's a framework here, there's a set of principles there, or some criteria here. And some of that is then synthesizing that and going out of that and going to extract these 4 or 5 things that are going to drive the ideation that I'm going to be doing, as you would do with the primary research, all your interviews and the rest of it, where you've got a kind of bunch of unmet needs or opportunities in those things. And then we bring those two together, you're really saying, I could do this or I could do that. What do my criteria tell me would be the right decision to be going for? And it's very tempting to go to, I've got an idea and now I'm going to work on it and iterate it. The bit that they often miss, and the bit I always used to say to you that you made a big thing out of, is come up with your 100 shitty ideas. Go then broad and really generate lots of stuff. You'll get through all the easy ones first. You'll start to get a bit stuck, and then you'll get ridiculous ones that you might find a real sort of little kernel of interesting opportunity in. You will stumble across an idea that is what I call generous, right? Where you'll go, there's a theme there, or is a kind of area there. And when I think about it, there's, oh, and I could do that, and I could do that, and I could do that, and I can do that. And those are the ones to go for, right? Rather than, I've got my idea, but it's a mean idea. It's not generous. And I'm really struggling to pull anything out of it. And I'm just there, and I sat there and I'm looking at it and it's just not coming. Just jettison that one. Go on. Maybe it comes back later, but you don't get to have that kind of exploration unless you have a really broad ideation. And when you're a master student, you've got a piece of work, you've got time to do a piece of work where there is no stakeholders to please. There's no kind of boss telling you what to do. You can do whatever kind of crazy thing you want. And now's the time to do that. That's my answer to that question. What about you?
Yeah, obviously, I resonate a lot with this notion of making a lot, because usually, as I'm someone who is not a perfectionist, it really helps me to kill my imposter syndrome, to have a lot of stuff out. And I think for students also who often have this kind of fear of, I'm not doing well, just doing a lot, it's like the lottery thing. If you do enough, there will be something good that comes out of it. I think that's the
Yeah.
one big piece here. Maybe a provocation that I could add to this is like the ping pong thinking, where often people think about research as like this linear thing where you do the research, then you do the synthesis, etc. You
Yeah.
do it step by step. And what if you did it in a ping pong fashion where you're doing the research, but after an interview, you can already prototype something, you can already sketch something, because obviously it's fun to do it and thinking, okay, I did this interview. What could it mean right now? And I know I'm going to park this idea, but just for already thinking a little bit in a hands-on way.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, that's synthesis, but it's synthesis with hands instead of
Yeah.
brains. And that's like a provocation that I often like to do also with students. Just have fun, do some stuff. Don't get stuck in the academy
Yeah.
stuff.
Be a designer, right? Your job is to invent stuff and make stuff up. Yeah. Good. Good provocation.
And maybe if we had another one, because we're very provocative, both of us, would be to remember from where you come. Often I hear illustrators say, it's hard for me, the research thing, because I'm an illustrator. I'm someone who likes to draw. Who said you can't draw? Like, use these skills also to do your synthesis, to do your research, to summarize stuff. I think that's another thing that can really help and make it fun.
You just made me think of something else, which is also to think of where you're going, right? Because when you're doing a master's project, it's going to be a big piece of work that will form part of your portfolio, and you will get more of that kind of work because that's how people work. So show us what you've done. Oh yeah, we're looking for someone who can do that. Can you do it for us again? And there's a real opportunity to think about what methods or making methods or what things am I rubbish at and I'd like to try out and get good at, but also what do I want to have as a thing at the end that is going to show the kind of work I want to be doing. So that's very useful to guide your ideation.
Absolutely. And Obviously, we could go much deeper in all of these questions. I'm going to share another one,
Yes.
which is from Xenia, and she is asking, I'm not a maker. How do I prototype? So she's not coming from the classical design degree thing, graphic design or product design, but still, she is learning all things about service design. And so she's struggling to get started with prototyping. Obviously, I have a few ideas, but I'm interested in yours. What will you have
Okay, I
said
get to go
to
first.
Xenia?
So you've got it so good these days, kids. There are so many tools and platforms out there, whether it's something like Canva or there's a whole bunch of kind of templates and design patterns and stuff. And to prototype something, it depends on what you're trying to prototype and what you want to get out of it. But you can make some nice looking, and they don't have to be amazing, but you can make some decent looking, tangible artifacts using all of that stuff. And in general, what you're looking with that service design first prototype at the very least is what's the value proposition, what's the service proposition, people understand it. And also, is it coherent? And so you can, the coherent bit you can borrow, you can stand on someone else's shoulders and go, do you know what? There's a whole kind of design here. There's a whole bunch of templates for how I present, for kind of what a mock-up of a website might look like, what a mock-up of an ad might look like, what some, I don't know, some physical things might look like that you can use. In Senya's case, I know there's also some 3D actual kind of product stuff. There are a bunch of tools that from Google or for using that people use for kind of 3D printers. They're not, there's also a whole library of kind of 3D objects and stuff. So there's some things there you could play with. It's certainly worth a little experiment with and see, can I do the kind of Lego version of this and get something similar? But, also at the very least, if you can do a stick man storyboard, that might be good enough because actually what you're trying to do is just to get the sense of the day in the life of or the kind of hero journey through this and understand what are the key steps, what are the transitions and so forth. And then later you can think about, oh, I need to make something that looks nice. But really you're just trying to get a sense of the kind of ecosystem and the flow of that first. That's my view.
Yeah. And Canva is such a beast. People don't know how good this thing is. Just being able to get a template and then removing backgrounds, even generate images and
Yeah.
stuff. It's pretty, and it's free.
Yeah.
It's free. So this is crazy. On my side, the way I answered it, I said, do you, when you were a kid, did you play Lego?
Yeah.
And she said, yeah. Okay. So you know how to prototype because that's one way you can prototype. Just build something with Legos. And that usually works pretty well with services, which are interactions that are intangible. It's
Hmm.
not just usually just not just a wireframe. It's like a more complex thing. And you can tell a story saying, okay, this is this person, this is Bob. And you can tell the story of Bob going through the different steps. And we have smartphones, so we can just record ourselves telling this story. And that's something that you can do very simply. It's visual, it's a bit quirky, but it
Yeah.
works. And if you don't like Legos, you can do what a great mate that we both have, Manu Franier from the HSSO Valley. He's really deep into the kind of using theater to prototype stuff. And obviously, that sounds like even more fancy and complicated. Theater is just being with another friend of yours and saying, you play the cop, I play the prisoner, and this is the setting. Let's try something. And again, you can record it and then you can share it, edit it, and you already have kind of a service experience there, especially for all these non-digital
Yeah.
things, which I think are a big part of what we love about service design also. Using non-digital ways of prototyping, Lego, role
Hmm.
play, it just works.
Yeah. I think one of the things with that is always to remember what is it you're trying to test? What is it trying to find out, discover? Because prototyping is not just about making a nice looking thing, but it's about that. And I think the other thing with all those intangible things is you don't need much. You can have really rubbish drawn things on a piece of paper and, use a table as whatever as a kind of prop and chairs. And when you act it out, you're looking to see two things. One, you can go, how does this feel? Right? What do I feel like? What did that feel like being the service provider then? Did that feel weird, that interaction and that kind of stuff? Which is really useful with the acting out, the theatre bit. And I think the second bit is this idea that as soon as you make something tangible, it's what you were saying before to Sophia's question, you start thinking and you've got this idea in your head. It always seems perfect in your head. And as soon as you make it, oh, it's really imperfect. There's all these problems with it. That's really great. Right. And as you start making you're making to think and you're going, oh no, but that's not going to work. Oh no, I see that. That's never going to work. But I could do this, I could do that. And that's a really important part of that. And for that, It doesn't have to be sophisticated at all.
And I think that's the best tip that we can give based on all the previous coaching sessions that we did, but also just with these two elements, which is, I think, don't take it so seriously. Let's have some fun.
Yes.
And like not overcomplicate it, because goal of all of these things is just to get started somewhere. And usually once you get started, that's when then the work happens, because the hard thing is to start.
Yeah.
The difficult thing is to start. It's not to then improve it. So find something simple that you can use to just get started.
Very good. Very good. I agree. Absolutely agree.
But before we leave, I think we have a bit of good news for people interested in service design. What's the good news?
The good news is the applications for the Masters of Service Design have been extended to the 15th of June, 2024. And we'll put a link below to tell you where to go for that. So anyone interested in studying with Daniela and myself and all our lovely colleagues, go for it, apply, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you in return. And for any of our peers who might have different answers to ours, they might disagree, you can put those in the comments too.